and I'm here today with Brenden. How are you today, Brenden?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
Good, thank you. How's your week been?
Yeah, really good so far.
Dude, I had a hectic week and I'm ready to decompress today. What are we talking about?
Yeah, expectations we're talking about today.
You know, and this is actually a lot of the reason why people get stressed, because they put expectations on themselves, on others, and at the same time, that's not to say that they're a bad thing, but at the same time, if they're either arbitrary or unspoken, what can happen is then it can build resentment within yourself, within others, and then when things don't happen, that's when that anger and that stress boils up. It's like me telling you that you should be like this, but then in my heart of hearts, I expect you to do something of that nature but differently, and because I don't tell you and then I expect you to deliver the other way than rather what I've told you, then I get upset. It's like me drinking poison and expecting you to die, right? It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's the the expectations you put on yourself. Like, for example, as you grow as a person, you're ever increasing your own expectations in yourself, and you're sort of expecting that other people are doing the same, whereas they haven't put in that work quite as yet. So it's just more or less, when you're in that point, having a bit of empathy and thinking about the situation they're in, and if they've put in that work, if they've got that knowledge behind them to be able to meet the expectations you have on them, and that's with yourself as well. The higher the standards you have for yourself, and the more you expect from yourself, the more sort of stress it's putting on yourself as well, and that just keeps increasing by the day if you're always working on yourself.
Yeah, that's so spot on. And the thing is with expectations, they have to be communicated. Have to be. Doesn't matter if it's not articulate or not, or if they sound either abrupt, or if you're not even used to boundaries and then someone sets expectations on you, it can feel like an attack. And so a lot of the time when someone sets a boundary or sets expectations, if you feel like that's an attack, then you're the kind of person that doesn't like accountability. And if you don't like accountability, there's no way you're going to grow, because part of growth requires accountability. It requires that accountability of self, where you're constantly just evaluating yourself and going, hey, this is not where I'm stepping up at the moment. This needs to change, or otherwise nothing's going to change. And so by being able to effectively communicate expectations, whether it's you're dealing with someone else as a business partner, in a relationship, as a human being in general, if you have expectations of people or expectations of their actions that are going to help you carry yourself in a certain way, in a certain transaction or part of your life, then that needs to be effectively communicated. Now, on the other end of that, carrying expectations of people that either don't deserve it or don't need it, but you decide to carry them because you have this pompous ego that demonstrates to not only yourself but to other people that you don't have a handle of your emotions, then that's a problem. Because a lot of what I've done in the past has been, hey, this person is acting in this way and in this way and this way, and because I know better, they should be acting this way, this way, this way, this way, right? Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what the hell do I know, right? I don't know what they're going through. I haven't really fully met them as the person they are, and I only think about them in a way that I wish they were. And so to expect and add expectations to basically an imaginary person is absolutely ridiculous on my part in this example. And so there are two different expectations. There are the expectations that, hey, I'm going to business with you, or hey, I'm going to a relationship with you, or hey, we're friends, or hey, this and this and this and this. If it's clearly communicated and you have effective boundaries that you set, those are great expectations. As long as they are consistently communicated and they're consistently carried out, they're great. But the main thing is they're communicated. these other expectations, these arbitrary expectations, these impossible expectations that either you set on yourself or onto other people, you don't communicate them because you don't want other people to know that this is what you expect of them. Absolutely ridiculous, because then not only does it hurt them, it also hurts you long term, because you're putting all this energy into expectations that aren't even required. And half the reason you have these expectations is because you don't see yourself as the person with the high standards that you'd like other people to have. And instead of putting those standards on yourself and setting those expectations for yourself, you do it to somebody else, so that then they can feel bad about themselves, and then they go down to your level, which is straight up manipulation, but it is also ludicrous.
Yeah, that's right. Like, for me, I find it's sort of the opposite thing than not lowering my own standards. I find I keep getting, like, increasing my standards all the time. Like, in terms of expectations, I expect myself to do morning outdoor run every morning. I expect myself to eat well. I expect myself to read. I expect myself to consume positive content all the time. When I see people not doing that, sometimes I've got to stop myself and think about, look, they haven't put in the work I have. They're not mentally in that same space that I am, and I've got to have a bit of empathy about the position they're in, because of those standards there. It can be frustrating at times, because it just becomes ingrained in you that you expect of it, and then you've got to sort of realise that, hey, back a few years ago I was in the same position. We've got to realise that there's work to be done for them to be on that same level, and you just sit back a bit and work them through so they can work to become the best versions of themselves, which I'm trying to do every day.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that old adage where if you don't ever expect anything, you'll never be disappointed, I think it's a comfortable lie, because it has people believing that by not expecting anything that they won't be disappointed. But the disappointing thing is that life happens. And so whether you're expecting it or not, it happens. And so if you want to bundle yourself up in bubble wrap and go, hey, look, you know what? I'm just going to sit here in the corner, all comfortable, not expecting anything, not having any disappointments or any turmoil or anything like that. Up to you, that's great. But what will happen is then you'll just watch your life pass by. You'll watch your life go by while other people do other things. And so by getting in the arena, by setting high standards for yourself and managing what you do on a day-to-day basis will then help you not only live your life a lot better, but then also at the same time, you won't have that many expectations. Like you said, empathy, like having compassion for other people and acknowledging where they are on their journey. Like that takes a lot of vulnerability. And by not expecting anything and not being disappointed in that outcome, well, one, that's obvious, but then also two, you don't develop that capacity for vulnerability and compassion and empathy because you never put yourself out there. And so you've got to put yourself out there. You need to expect things to happen, whether it's by divine intervention by God, if you're somebody who really dives into their faith, or if you're the kind of person that just makes things happen themselves. You've got to be able to expect an outcome. But at the same time, as I was saying before, that's got to be communicated with either yourself by making small promises to yourself and then expecting to deliver on said promises, or if you're having a conversation with others and you're making a transaction or you're making some sort of deal with them, that whatever it is that you say, they can expect you to deliver as well as you can expect you to deliver. And if you're not doing either, well then that's the disappointing thing. And the thing is, for you to expect greatness but to give very little, like that's real disappointment. Not this, well, I didn't expect anything, so I'm not disappointed. Yeah, no shit. Of course you're not, because you didn't do anything. And so, life is for the doers, as we both know, as we all know.
Yeah.
And when you do things, hey, you need to expect things. And so learning how to manage your own expectations, whether it's your own or other people's, or your perception of other people's expectations, there's the art. And so for me, like, I have expectations of myself, I do have expectations of others that are arbitrary and that I'm working on. Every time I make an expectation of someone else, I'm asking myself, hey, do I really expect this of me? And I'm just projecting it onto somebody else. And a lot of the time it is. And so that can happen in all cases, whether it's you're running a business and you're learning from somebody else and you're getting somebody else to do all different things as well. It can become an expectation from you to them that, hey, they should be doing everything, or hey, this is what they're doing at the moment, so this is what I expect them to do from now on.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. And so, and when you're working on your fitness as well, you can go, well, because so and so are really jacked and they eat a certain way, that's going to work for me. And so you can expect it to work. At the same time, you can expect it to work to the degree that you're willing to do that said work. And so if they're doing that work and you know that they're doing that work, but you're not willing to go do that work, but you're doing similar things to what they're doing, but not to that extent, do you expect their results? Absolutely ridiculous.
No, that's entitlement. That's what that is.
That's exactly what
that's not doing the work and expecting the results regardless.
And that's what we were talking about before, about managing expectations, because if you're entitled because you have a certain knowledge, right, and you went to university or you did all these courses or degrees and you have the knowledge, but you don't have the physique, or you don't have the money, or you don't have the relationships, like you said, that's entitlement. And so people that expect things, expect them to fall in their lap, or expect things after I do one thing to then achieve this result. It often doesn't happen that way. Like, sometimes it takes years and years and years of proper discipline, of proper nutrition, of proper training. And sometimes it takes years and years of having really rough conversations with people to actually build a solid relationship. It takes years and years and years of self-examination to get insights, to be able to let go of the past, to be able to let go of things that have happened to you, and let go of different things that can happen later down the track if you continue doing the same actions. And so to expect yourself to be able to let that go all at once, hey, you know what, that's not impossible, but it's difficult. But then if you're entitled in a way where, if I don't do the work, these things are going to happen anyway, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so learning how to understand your own expectations, so what it is that you expect from yourself, action-wise, thought-wise, relationship-wise, and actually managing them by going, hey, this is actually what I'm willing to do, and this is what I'm willing to say, this is what I'm willing to think. All these different branches of understanding your own expectations is essential for growth, is essential for embodying excellence, because if you tell yourself the truth and you go, hey, I'm not really stepping up to my potential, then it's so much easier to go, hey, look, you know what? This is currently where I am. Here's what I expect myself to do right now. But as I level up, my expectations are going to increase of myself and not of others. My compassion is going to increase more for others because I do the work. My empathy, my vulnerability, it's all going to increase. It all increases because you take action. You don't just expect things to happen. And because you understand that the expectations should only be set on yourself and not on other people. Now, there are different nuances to this, in the sense that if you're a business owner and you have employees, well then you hire them to do a job.
Yeah.
So you expect them to do a job.
Exactly.
If you're a coach, like I am, like you're about to become, and you have clients, by signing them up, then you expect them to follow the said program that you have. Sometimes they don't, and that's where you learn to manage expectations. And then vice versa. If you're a client and you hire a coach, you expect them to deliver on their program, on their promises. And so it's a two-way engagement in that sense, because the coach needs to deliver on their promises and their programs, but that can't happen if the client's not willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And so understanding and managing certain expectations so that then you don't dive yourself into entitlement, and then on the other side, that you don't completely fall out, that you expect nothing and you end up not disappointed, and you just have this nihilistic view on life that, you know what, I'll do nothing so nothing will happen. And then that's not living at all, that's just existing. And if you expect a great life out of just existing, then I think you have it wrong. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and if you're going back on the expectations thing in terms of the workplace and all those sort of things, and even if you're doing your own business or anything like in your fitness and all them sort of things, sometimes what is deemed as what's expected of you, the bare minimum, you can't really go sort of any further by just doing that minimum. You've got to go that extra mile to be able to do things. So sometimes them expectations, it depends on what levels they are on as well. So if you've got low expectations on something for yourself, that's not really going to take you very far. Whereas if you've got high expectations, that's going to take you a lot further and going to be ever evolving, not just doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, shoot for the moon, but then if you miss, you'll get the stars, right?
Yeah.
And so that's such a really important concept as well when it comes to managing expectations, because if you know the story of Icarus and Daedalus, where Daedalus was the dad, Icarus was the son, and Icarus wanted to fly, and his dad warned him, don't fly too close to the sun, or otherwise like your wings will get burned off and then you will perish. And then he also warned him, don't fly too low, because what will happen is then the ocean will just sweep you away because the tide is much stronger than you are. And so learning how to fly within the range, and then for you to go high enough that you're not getting burned by the sun, but you're also thriving. But then there are going to be moments where you do get low because you tumble or there's turbulence and things like that. But as long as you're continuing to fly, then you're living. And so that's a metaphor that I often come back to, and that's a story that I heard a long time ago on a different podcast. But at the same time, like just figuring out that setting your expectations should be based on the standards that you set for yourself. And so like you said, if you have low standards for, let's say, women, and you're willing to sleep with anybody, then you're not really then shaping yourself up for a future relationship, because your baseline is so low that anyone will do. And then if you have such a high standard of people, then just expect everyone else to be wiped out, because not everyone's going to have your high expectations. And so there's only just going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 women like within that, and whether you like them or not, who knows, right? Same with friends, right? Like if you've got a low standard for friends and you're willing to hang out with everybody, well then, hey, everyone might be a mate for a while, and then they just start disappearing, and then you just get a whole bunch of new mates. Where if you have a high standard for friends, then if you have 1, 2, 3 solid friends, like they'll be the only 3 that you need. And so because they maintain the same standard, but then they'll have 2 or 3 mates as well that also maintain the same standard, you might connect with one another, and then you just get a whole group that actually really have high standards, all because you set your standards really high. You have 3 mates that you're solid with, but then everyone else has 3 mates that they're solid with as well, and it just binds that community together. And so like having high expectations is really important, but then also being able to discern between high standards and high expectations without doing the work, that's also an important distinction to make, because there are people that have high expectations but aren't willing to do the work. But then there are also other people who have high standards who are willing to do the work, and they're not the ones fucking pandering about, oh, how everyone should have fucking high standards and yada. They just have them. And then they just go and do the work anyway, and they don't really give a fuck about who knows who, right? And so knowing that having expectations is important, but knowing also that the expectations are set and reserved for yourself. not for anybody else. Because I think the old saying that only God can judge is a really accurate one, right? And so just leave the judging up to him and focus on working on yourself, so that then the standards that you create for yourself get higher and higher each year, and then that will then translate into financial success, into relationship success, into friendship success, into just life success in general. And so we're on our way there. Like, I'm not perfect and I'm not exactly where I'd like to be either, but I've learned throughout the years that I've been an adult that I'm heading in the right direction when it comes to becoming more aware, understanding these premises and like what it means to be someone who serves. And so understanding that my expectations of you, there aren't any. Like, I don't have any expectations of you. You have expectations of yourself. And we have an arrangement where we come and do the podcast together, we'll go out and do a walk together, we'll train together, like whatever we do together, like I'm not expecting you to, right? And so you're going, hey, I want to do it. Hey, I love coming out here every Sunday and having a yarn and having this podcast. Like, even when we do go for a walk, and like, I'm not expecting you to just talk to me like we're on the walk, and you're not expecting me to talk to you either. Like, and so sometimes we go for a walk and there are periods where we're silent, but most of the time we're talking anyway. But it's not because it's an expectation, it's because we want to actually have a conversation with one another. And so that's what I was elaborating on earlier about differentiating between the two sets of expectations. The expectations of standards and boundaries and essential things that are needed for everyday reality, and then the expectations of, oh, I should get this and I should get that, without actually doing the work, which you eloquently put as entitlement. Two different sets. And so knowing the two is also really important. So being able to share this, and I've had hard lessons with this, because there was a time where like I wasn't doing any work at all and I was just expecting the world. And then when I found out that didn't work, I was completely heartbroken. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so intelligent. Like, I have all these wonderful insights and I did all these things at school and I got really good grades and yada yada. And then life was like, nah, that's not how the world works. And I'm like, well, shit. Well, aren't I fucked? And then I was listening to podcasts, and then they said, well, no, you're not fucked at all. Like, you were just taught wrong. Here's the right way to do it. Listen to this, do this. So I just did that, and I'm sitting here now, and I'm just going, cool, all right, this life experience is one heck of a ride. And so being able to just share a story, like, that's empowering. And so knowing that I could get myself here and expecting myself to get better every single day, like, has led me here.
Yeah, and I'd go as far as like the thing with expectations sometimes, that this is sort of a little bit different, but sometimes you expect, say for example when you're driving, you expect someone to either let you in or whatever, and sometimes they cut you off or whatever. Obviously it annoys the fuck out of you at the point, but at the end of the day, that's our expectation of that situation, because we will do it ourselves. We've got that standard upon ourselves to let the person in, right? But then you sort of take a step back for a second, and I think it was the magic of thinking big. It explained how when someone's in a situation like that, think of the big picture. Is it really matter that much? At the end of the day, as long as they didn't hit you, whatever, it's fine, just move on. Why let that ruin the rest of your day? Like, just take it as it comes, and don't let that sort of expectation of what really should happen dictate whatever else you do in the day.
Yeah, big picture thinking is so important when it comes to expectations, because the thing is, a lot of the people that set the sort of expectations that you were just elaborating on, like, they have what I would call small picture thinking, where they only really think moment to moment. It's very reactionary. It's not very responsive, it's very reactionary. So a person who is entitled, who has a good knowledge base but doesn't execute, they act very reactionarily. And then a person who acts really responsively, like they set their expectations, they set the boundaries, they set the meetings, they set the deals, they set, like, there's a difference. Like, they're in control, or at least like perceptive control, where they're doing all the different things. Where this person here, who's expecting everything to happen for them, like, they don't have any control at all, and they get the most upset because they know deep down in their heart of hearts that they don't feel like that they're in control, but then they'd rather impose on everybody else on how they should do things to compensate. And so you have those people. Then you have those people who set everything to a standard and increases their game and elevates their levels, everything like that. But then you have these third people who have no expectations at all, and then just go, hey, like, life is life, man. Like, and so it's one of those things where I'm loosening up a little bit more, like, because I used to be a massive control freak, and so I've made a lot of money, I've lost a lot of money, I've been in relationships, I've been out of relationships, like, but all of those things had two things in common: me, and then my controlling nature. Like, I needed to be in control. I was scared. And so now just learning to loosen up and then just let life have its day and let truth have its day. Like, if I know what standards that I need to set, and then I subconsciously set them, and I continue to act in the way that I feel about myself, then I won't need to set expectations, because it doesn't mean I need to impose on everybody else. It doesn't even need to mean I impose on myself. It just means that I decide to live in congruence with the way that I feel about myself, which may mean I go and live by the beach, or I may go live by the bush, or I just do whatever the hell I want. And so I don't expect anything of anyone else. I don't expect too much of myself, and I don't take life too seriously either. Like, because life can be taken seriously, and then at the same time, like, we only get 1 in 400 trillion chance of being born, so like, life can also be absolutely absurd. And so, again, it's a spectrum, and so it's not binary. It's not, well, you know what, I've gone from this to that. Like, it happens in fluxes. Like, I know I've had transgressions behind the wheel, right, and at football matches, right, where I just completely lose my marbles. And then also at the same time, like, I know within my fitness journey, like, there have been times where I've been very regimented, and then there have been times where I've just completely let go, and it's affected me in a negative way. And so learning to actually go, you know what, this is how my life is going at the moment. I'm not going to let my life dictate it, but then I also can act in accordance with how I feel. So if I learn to go within and manage how I feel, then the expectations that I set will be a lot different. So instead of expecting others to do good by me, I can expect myself to do good by others without expectation in return. I can go as far as to say, I don't even expect myself to do good. I know to do good, so that's how I act anyway. And so it's one of those things where we're not living in a binary nature. Like, we live in a spectrum. Like, life happens, good things happen, bad things happen. We're happy, we're sad. All these different spectrums of emotions and experiences and things like that, they're all happening simultaneously. It's just that we concentrate on one. And honestly, we tend to concentrate more on our sadness than our joy. And often enough, if we take a few steps back and just really recollect all the things that have happened in our lives, we'll find that everyone's had their equal fair share of everything. Where they've been really happy, they've been really sad, they've been really bitter, they've been really bored. Like, any emotion that you think of, everyone's really mostly had their fair share of things. Like, I'm not saying that there isn't absolute evil in the world, there is, and that other people may have had it worse than I did, but in our perspective as well, we have had things happen to us, and so we can't expect other people to understand what we went through, like we can't expect ourselves to understand what other people go through. And so to create a level playing field, to create a peaceful environment, we've got to be able to not only just manage our feelings, but also step into the shoes of others and go, you know what, this person's been through a hard time, this person's going through a hard time, this is what their story is at the moment. Oh, okay, look, I don't forgive their actions, I don't condone their actions either, but at the same time, I can't expect myself to go, well, you know what, I'm never associating with this person again, to the X degree that you make that choice. And so, like, you always have a choice, but then it just comes down to managing emotions. And so expectations to me are just honestly compensation for the inability to feel in control of oneself. That's what expectations feels like to me.
Yeah, I think so. And if you go into a day expecting that it's going to be all laxy daisy and there's not going to be any problems arise, then
I can't
that's
name one day.
Yeah.
I can't name one day.
That's gonna give you anxiety when it comes up, and it's gonna cause you to be frustrated and anything and saying why does it have to be this way? Whereas if you go into the day expecting that things are gonna happen to you, then it completely turns the tables around and you sort of take everything head on when they come to you.
Oh, it's one of those things now that as I'm getting older and like experiencing all different things, I'm learning to just let go. And so being able to let life flow and not just have life in a chokehold all the time, like, it just gives me that sense of freedom. It just gives me that sense of ability to be able to go, hey, look, you know what? This happened. Yeah, cool. Okay. No worries. Sweet. And people go, oh, don't do this and that. I was like, yeah, okay. And, right, like, it happened because it happened. And it couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't, right? As his name Peter Crone would say, it's one of these prisons that we hold ourselves in. And so I'm learning to just go, look, it happened that way. And I can't expect myself to think that it would happen any other way because it didn't. And so when you miss opportunities, you go, oh, I expect myself to do better and I should have done better, but you didn't. In this moment, you didn't, but you know better. So in the next moment you have, because we live moment to moment, you do better.
Yeah.
If you don't do better, then you're choosing not to do better. And if you're choosing not to do better, but you want to do better, well, then you need to figure out why you're choosing not to do better. So that then whatever it is that you're either holding on to or something's got a grip on you, you can learn to let go of so that then you can move on.
Yeah.
And just having expectations to me to begin with that mark entitlement just shows me that you aren't in full control of you. And so to get in full control of you, it's make promises to yourself and keep them, look after your health, look after your relationships, look after your well-being, and then let people then live, because you're not in control of what other people think of you either. And so to go, oh, you can't say that about me, or you can't do this, and yada yada yada, like, that's energy that you're using that you have no control over the outcome. And where you could be using to go, hey, I'm growing and I'm becoming somebody better. Like, two different spheres of reality. And so expectations is just one of those gnarly things that we have as a survival mechanism to go, hey, look, when this happens, we expect this outcome. If this outcome doesn't happen, oh my God, this is a problem. Oh my God, this is a problem. This compromises our ability to survive X, Y, Z. And it's one of those things that are hardwired into us because many moons ago, we just used to live in savannas and we just relied on other people to ensure that we were safe. Like, we lived in tribes and we didn't get eaten by animals. Now we live in houses, we're in office buildings all the time. Like, we're not outside, but then at the same time, like, what the senses that we use to fear animals and to fear things falling on top of us, we just now use when somebody makes a snark remark or when somebody does something that doesn't align with our values. And so we use that same expectation of merely adjusting or accommodating for our feelings, when in reality it's often not necessary. And so by being able to just let go of expectations, it just gives us freedom. And it just gives us freedom to do and to be different. And so, as I was saying though, like, it isn't just going to be, oh my God, I'm free, like that's it, I've let go of all expectations, kumbaya, happy go lucky, we're all done here. Like, it doesn't, like, there are moments where you go, yep, I'll let go of all expectations, and then you see someone that you know do something fucking stupid and you go, you're a fucking idiot, like I expected better from you, right? Like, it's a spectrum, like, we're human fucking beings, and not, we're not sentient fucking robots who have like existential superiority over every other fucking being. Like, we're humans. Like, we move day to day, we think moment to moment, and to think that there are going to be some moments where we have expectations is completely normal. To then be able to let go of all expectations, all and forever, is absolutely delusional. And so, like, unless you're living somewhere in Mongolia just with a bunch of monks who just live very fastidiously and they just don't have a lot, you know what, you might get to that state of mind of that enlightenment, but in this social construct, in this environment that human beings have created, not likely. And then if you do get there and then something else does happen, it's just a loop all over again. So just learning to live within and not expect from out there to fill you up inside, like, that is the best way to go, so that then you're growing internally, and then what you do internally then reflects what you do externally, because your actions are often dictated by how you feel inside and then what values you subconsciously aligned yourself to.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
I think so too. I think this was a really strong episode, and thank you for tuning in. And
thank you.
If you like our content, please follow us on our YouTube channel, please follow us on our Instagram channel, and stay tuned for more.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one, guys.